And now my pleasure to introduce Steve Cuss of AFC Bournemouth. Steve is the head of Community Sports Trust and the women's team manager. He's going to talk to us about how a Premier League football team does its best to recognise mental health and how you can use community engagement and partnerships to support and actively help individuals using the power of football. Over now to Steve.
Good morning, everybody, and I've got to start by saying how humbling it is to be here. My world is probably very different from the world that we've just heard from Danny and for so many of you that are in the room, but it is a great honour for me to be able to share the stage with Danny and follow on from that inspirational speech that we've just heard. My speech will be a little bit different. Mine takes us into the world of work, and I'd like to share over the next kind of like 30 minutes or so about how we can change in our world of work. Football, my world, is very much a team game. Armed forces, emergency services, very much part of a team. So I think there's some shared experiences that we can certainly talk about today. Even though I'm not exactly in your area of field. But I will take you back to my childhood, to what it was like as a young football player, trying to aspire to be something, and take you through to what football looks like now, if I can. But a welcome to everybody. My job at AFC Bournemouth is as head of community. So I get the pleasure of working with so many different organisations and so many different projects. And since 2019, I've been the women's team manager. My background has always been as a football coach. I feel I'm most comfortable. We heard about Danny's spaces where he feels comfortable. My comfortable space is out on the coaching field. That's where I feel like I'm in my own area, my own body. Outside of that, right now, probably a little bit out of my comfort zone, but out on a coaching field, exactly where I want to be. And since 2019, I've been coaching the women's team at AFC Bournemouth, and I'm sure all the football fans, hopefully there's a few football fans in the room, have seen the women's team grow. Obviously, the national team, England team, winning the Euros and getting to the final of the World Cup has certainly put the women's football on a really fast speed track, and AFC Bournemouth are on that track as well. So I've been at AFC Bournemouth for 21 years. I was only coming for a couple of years. My background is I'm from a little bit further down south, from Torquay in Devon. Again, links to Danny with his spells in Devon and different parts. But I came up to take on the job at AFC Bournemouth and stayed, and now in my 21st year. Football gives you some real highs and some real lows. And I think that's what I want to try and get across today. I've experienced, again, all the people that follow football might know that AFC Bournemouth are in the Premier League right at the moment, but I experienced all 4 divisions. The day I walked in, a Monday, we had a game on a Tuesday, and it was home in a Leyland Daft Cup competition. 2,000 people were actually at the stadium. It was a very much different place to what it is. During that time at Bournemouth, that 21 years, we've had administration, which is an absolute real low. And for somebody who was responsible for staff, thinking that those staff were going to lose their jobs during administration, and the stress and the pressure that I put on myself in thinking about those people that worked for me because we were in administration, we were going to go out of business, to where we are now in the Premier League has seen many highs and lows. So if I can take you back to the very young me, this, I suppose, is like everyone's dream, a lot of people's dream. We heard from Danny, he wanted to be a soldier. I'm sure many people in the room, you had that dream about being a soldier. My dream was to be a professional football player. My whole life, ever since I was young, was football. My family was all football, that's what we did. And this is actually a team photograph of one of my first teams that I played for. That's me at the back row, second one in from the right. And I think we're about 10 or 11 years old there in playing the game. I actually, when I looked for that photograph, and I said this before when I'd done a previous speech, I upset my mum. Because looking at that photograph, I'm not sure there was too many hairdressers around at the time. Because the state of us as a team there, we look a huge mess compared to what team photographs and modern day football players look like now, where they look after themselves so well. But that environment, I look back on that environment now that I'm in a position to be able to influence young football players, both male and female, across AFC Bournemouth and the wider spectrum as well. But I look back on what football and how it's changed to what it is now. Certainly then, it was less than a positive environment. I love football, and I really wanted to play football, and I went out and did it all the time. But if we look at that photograph there, there's 11 of us. My first taste of football was on an 11-a-side football pitch with a size 5 football. That football there is a size 5. That's my brother in goal, in the yellow. And we had to play the game exactly as it was played by the adults. We were 10 years old. So how could football back then, that would be about 1980, 81, how could football expect a 10-year-old to perform the same way as an adult? And the stresses and the pressures that put us on as young people shapes our future as well. So again, now I'm in that position to be able to shape the future of some of the young people in football. This is what we look at, and this is our changing environment. But we were based on, back in that 1980s, all on winning. That was the only outcome. We had to win. If you won, you were good. If you lost, you were bad. And it was as simple as that. There was no development. There was no, well, you did this okay, you did that okay, you just need to practice that a little bit more. It was win or lose. So we either went home as 10-year-olds feeling very high or very low. There wasn't much in between it. As I say, we were treated like adults. We still see junior football now with a lot of adults shouting on the side, but there's still a lot of work to be done about that. But it wasn't an environment that you were able to share if you had anything that was affecting you. It was an environment where back then it was mostly men that played. So it's man up. One of my biggest disappointments is that my friend, who was female, Karen, wasn't able to play in that team. Because when we were 11, girls weren't allowed to play with the boys. She stopped playing, she never reached her potential. So that's why I'm really passionate about the women's game now and being able to provide an opportunity and a platform for young females to be able to develop themselves through football and reach their potential and their opportunities. We weren't allowed to show weaknesses. If you were injured, you strapped yourself up, you got out there, you played on. If you wasn't feeling too good, you'd had a row at home with your mum or dad. You couldn't come to football and share it with your coach. It wasn't that kind of environment. But it was a wonderful environment for me because I love football. So all those things didn't really matter to me as long as I was playing football. But we talk about teamwork, and we talk about emergency services being a team and the armed forces being a team. That team there is made up of different personalities, as you all be made up in your team and your groups that you work with. But football in the 80s treated everybody the same and expected everybody to come through the system and reach the end. Now in that team, when I was reaching the age of 13 and 14 and going through puberty and the change, my life was difficult. My life was nowhere near as hard as some of the guys that you will be talking about and hearing from today, and Danny that you heard about. But I find social side of it very, very difficult. I was going through a real problem with my skin, which made myself very self-conscious, and I wouldn't go out and join in with anything else that was happening as a teenager would do. But I would play football. So football became my release. On the field, no one could talk to me about my skin problem. No one could even get near me on that. I would just talk, I would just deliver and play football. So football became my release and my safe place to go and play. But definitely that has had an influence on me as I've become a coach and I'm working with all these young people now. I work with the women's team, and I've got 16-year-olds that play in the senior team. I've got 32-year-olds that play in the senior team. We've got young girls that play beneath that. And it's so important for me now, as a coach, to find out about the person rather than the player. And we talk in our team about people, and then we talk about the player. And that's something that's been changed dramatically in the world of football and across society as well. So it was a very aggressive environment for us. The strongest survived. You're either good enough, it was either a yes or no. And this is the days before social media. This is the days before mobile phones. This is the days when you had to write a letter. Now, I think I was a fairly decent football player. And I actually think I'd be better suited in the modern world, where you get sent off now for tripping somebody up, 2 little trips and you get sent off. Back then, it was very aggressive. People would tackle really hard. It wasn't really my game. As a young player, I didn't really like that. I used to like the ball at my feet and play. So I found that quite difficult in that environment, and I feel that I would have been a better player. So when I put up there, it's everyone's dream to be a professional football player. I'm too old now, but I've never stopped dreaming about being a professional football player because it didn't happen for me. I was at my hometown club of Torquay, and I wanted to become an apprentice at the time, which was the step forward to becoming a professional football player. I went off to the trials. I've been in the system for a little bit. It was clearly a one-day trial process. Group of coaches on the side with a clipboard. Never spoke to me, told me what number to wear. Out on the field, having a look at you, yes or no. They didn't look at me as a person. They didn't look at me anything else. They just looked at me purely on a football decision. And then 2 weeks later, the letter, the old-fashioned way of writing a letter, arrived at my house. And I knew this was the letter which was going to tell me whether my football dreams were going to be continuing or whether they were going to become collapsing down. And for me, it was a no. And that's, as a 16-year-old, I was lost. I was lost. And that's something else that I do now, to make sure we all know that not everybody can get to the very top, particularly in a sport like professional football player. But where you can get to other levels. And there's exit routes and the support services are really important. I got a letter. I've still got that letter because it means a lot to me. Because I managed to be able to find myself a way to be able to stay in football. So I got that letter, 16 years old, no future in the game. Torquay had turned me down, and to be honest, Torquay are my team, but if you get turned down by Torquay, you're probably not going to somewhere else. So I got turned down there, and I'm thinking, that's it. That's it. I can't play football anymore. I'm not going to be able to play. I've got no future. Told by a letter, disappointed. So what next? What do I do next? So you need a little bit of luck in life. I went off to college, went on a sports course, still not sure about what I'm going to do. Coaching wasn't really something that was discussed around, but in 1991, football in the community started. And again, some of you that might be into your football might have heard of football in the community schemes across all professional football clubs, and you might well have been involved in your football and community programs at your local professional football club. And the guy was introduced there as the football and community officer at Torquay called Frank Prince. And I was playing then just for a local team. Really, it was just recreational football. My dreams had gone. And he said to me, do you fancy doing a little bit of coaching? Well, I was 21 years old, and I said, I'm not sure I can coach. I only play. I don't know how to coach. I've never really thought about it. He said, well, you're crazy in football. You love your football. You're passionate about your football. Come and give coaching a go. And I came along to this. It was an October half-term soccer school. Loads of 9 and 10-year-olds, children there. Got a group of 30. 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock. You might well have been on some of those soccer schools yourself. I absolutely loved it. I found a different passion for football. I found that being around people that I could influence to make a little bit better, being around people that were equally as enthusiastic as me about football, young children wanting to improve, wanting to get better, I caught the coaching bug. And from that day onwards, I started to think about the game in a hugely different way. So I carried on coaching to the point where I got offered my full-time job at Torquay. So there I was, that football player, that dream of playing for Torquay, that was my club. Someone said that couldn't happen, but I got myself back in, full-time job as a coach at my hometown club. Now you talk about highs and lows and what it makes you feel like. Being able to go home and tell my dad that I was being taken on by Torquay United as a coach was a really, really special moment. My dad's not with us anymore, but that's a moment that lives in me for a very long time and will live in me forever. Being able to go back and work for the club that he took me to go and support was a fantastic place to be at. So 12 years at Torquay. During that 12 years at Torquay, I've met my wife, Anne. We've got married. We've got 3 children. And then a bombshell come, and the life of football, highs and lows. The chairman calls me in and says, we're going to scrap the youth department. I'm working in the youth department. I'm developing players, trying to get them into the first team. We're going to scrap the youth department. What does that mean for me? I'm back out the game. And I was lost again. I just didn't know what to do. I've got a wife, 3 children. I'm in Torquay. It's the only place I know. I'm coaching, at the club that I love so very dearly, and they tell me that that's being scrapped. So I sat with my wife, and she said, you've got to stay in football. You've got to stay. That's your passion. So I applied for a couple of other different jobs. Now, I don't know if many people of you know Torquay. It's a very quiet place. So I went off to my first job interview at Crystal Palace in London. And we're travelling up from Torquay, and we're finding it's all busy. We get to London, it's busy. Torquay's quiet, very calm. London's busy. And me and my wife, obviously I'm going into the interview. She's come to support me. By the time I get to the interview, I know this isn't for me. The London life wasn't something that I could probably adjust to at the age I was there. I went into the interview, wasn't particularly great at the interview, and didn't get the job, fortunately, because I didn't want the job. 2 days later, I got an interview at Bournemouth that I went up to, came up with my mum at the time. She came with me, and I fell in love with Bournemouth again. As soon as I walked into the football club, I felt like it was Torquay but bigger. Bournemouth is a very nice place to live, great, friendly football club, and I fell in love with it straight away. And the interview went great, and they said they'd let me know. And as I was driving back down to Torquay, I got a phone call from Bournemouth Football Club, and they offered me the job. I pulled into the lay-by, I phoned my wife. We've got a whole life in Torquay, never been outside of it. Unlike Danny, who's been around the world, we'd lived in Torquay, never been outside of it. I got a job offer at Bournemouth. I've got 3 children under the age of 9, all happy at school. Huge life decision in front of me now, compared with my family and my career. Obviously, I took the job at Bournemouth, but I had the full backing of my family. And I think, again, when we talk around people that we can talk to and people we can share to, my wife, Anne, played a huge part in making that decision for me. I had the really awkward bit of going up to Bournemouth on my own for 3 months to live in digs before they come and join me. And we said, let's go and do it. Let's go and do it. I can do football every day. We'll experience something new. We'll do it for 2 years, and we'll come back to Torquay and be with the rest of our family. 21 years later, we're probably not going back to Torquay now. We're probably staying in Bournemouth. I work for a wonderful football club, which hopefully I can share some experiences with you now in terms of what we're doing to promote mental health in football and in our community. So I came up to take the job at Bournemouth, and it was called AFC Bournemouth Community Sports Trust. So I become the head of community there. It was just me and a bag of footballs. So I went into local schools and I just delivered football sessions. That's all I did. Worked in there, but we know that sport and football can inspire so many people. Exercise can make you feel so good. It was a great job, fantastic job. But in 2008, we changed to become charitable status. And then we use our impact of the Premier League, which is so powerful. We use the impact of AFC Bournemouth, which is so powerful. And knowing that I'm working with the younger me, that team photograph, going into schools and working with so many different people, that we started to work in some real key areas of what we wanted to work in. And we started to try and be specialists in these areas and support people that were already working there. So we looked at these 4 areas of this is where we work in, and we still work in this to the day now. So we've got education, plays a huge part in what we deliver at AFC Bournemouth. Going in there today and every day of the academic year, I've got coaches going in and working in the schools. We're visiting 20 schools across Dorset and Hampshire today. So they'll be going in with their Bournemouth tracksuit on, and they'll be going in there, they'll be motivating, inspiring, and helping young people and pushing them in the right directions. We talk about participation. We want everybody to enjoy football. This isn't about the 10-year-old who wants to be a professional football player or not be a professional football player. That's not what my job's about anymore. My job is about making sure that people can participate in football and enjoy football at whatever level that might be. Yes, there's some real benefits to it, and we have the health agenda, obviously running around, keeping fit, and then we have all our other health projects, which I'm going to share with you as well, and social inclusion. We pride ourselves on being a very open football club that allow people to come in and take part in our activities. We've got a very limited...
This is Bruce announcement. At 11:30, there will be a short talk on the Cuss centre tank, where I will discuss the key features that can be seen inside this tank. If you wish to attend this talk, please give me the information point. Thank you.
Little break. Okay, so we have social inclusion as well. So again, football might have been back in the 80s and the 90s, and going through that was open to anybody who had access to it. We go and try and work with people that haven't got the access to football and can share that great experience that we all have that might not be able to have that on a regular basis. So we pride ourselves again. We've got the AFC Bournemouth Premier League team. We are fighting as hard as we can at the moment to stay in the greatest league in the world, in the Premier League. We've just slipped into the relegation spot, and we've got a few big games coming up. So we know we've got that team. But outside of that, we've got 27 other teams that we have. And this is our pathway that we've created. So through our schools coaching, we go into our recreational sessions. We know that we have to offer a service when other people are off, evenings and weekends. We then go into different talent centres. We then go into academy football and give them the opportunity to reach their potential. And then into the women's team if they can get that far and produce themselves and develop themselves to be able to get into that first team. Players as role models is something that I'm delighted to be able to offer our community. I take myself back to that young 10-year-old in Torquay. I still remember the player that came to our end of season presentation to hand me the medal. It was a professional football player called Andy O'Dell. I actually looked him up yesterday on Wikipedia to actually see what impact he had at Torquay. And do you know how many games he played for Torquay? 12. That's all he played. But he came to my presentation and gave me my medal. And 40 years later, I still remember that professional football player coming and giving me that medal and making me feel on top of the world that night. So we use players as role models. We take them out into schools, we take them to organisations, we take them to different events, both male, female, and ex-players, and our young players as well. Ahead of World Mental Health Day next week, we had a schools event at the stadium yesterday with our Premier League player Marcus Tavernier joined us, along with ex-player Steve Fletcher, and that will be going out on World Mental Health Day next week, supporting the work that we do at school. So very much use players as role models. And just some of the statistics, we never really stop at the community department. We just keep going all year round. We see around 4,000 people a week. I mentioned that the job when I first started was me and a bag of footballs, and now it's 52 people that are in my department that are out running different events. So we'd see 4,000 people a week, around about 150 sessions a week, over 25 different projects, 130 player appearances, and we've got a mini Cherries project, which is your preschool, which my grandson now goes to. Henry goes to that every Wednesday and Friday, and that's for 18 months upwards. He's not quite 18 months, but we allow him off that. He's allowed to join. And we're across Dorset and Hampshire as well. But I don't think there's probably words that I can say that what makes people feel good about their football club in their community. And what is different from that 10-year-old me in that tatty old Tottenham kit that we had, with our hair all growing all over the place, to what it looks like now, and the opportunities are there now. But it's much better if you see it in action. So I've just got a very small video here, just of some of the work we do now at the football club.
Cause you're a sky full of stars. I'm gonna give you my heart. Cause you're a sky full of stars. Cause you light up the path. I don't care, go on and tear me apart. I don't care if you do. Cause in a sky full of stars, I think I saw you. Cause you're a sky full of stars. I wanna die in your arms. Cause you get lighter the more it gets dark. I'm gonna give you my heart. I don't care, go on and tear me apart.
So hopefully that shows just a little bit of the work that we do at AFC Bournemouth, how we involve different age groups, different genders, everybody we possibly can, from the very good, the ones that can aspire to be perhaps professional football players, and you saw that a little bit with the women's team who are hoping to become professional very shortly or develop to that area of the game, right down to some of our older generation, some of our younger generation who just want to feel part of the football club. So our job, my job in community, is to make sure that I bring all of that together with our different projects to be able to do that. So hopefully that short clip there just showed and highlighted some of our work. And not really just to say what we're doing now, but just to really highlight what a difference it was for maybe a 10-year-old back then, me, the 10-year-old, to what the 10-year-old's opportunities are now. And through all of that, we try to understand the person that's within the project as well, which is really important to us. And that leads me nicely on now to football's responsibilities. So perhaps one of the things that many different organisations did was they would say, it's not our responsibility. Other people take care of that. So for things perhaps like safeguarding, things like mental health, we might look at that and go, well, safeguarding is the responsibility of the school. It's not. It's the responsibility of everybody. Mental health, well, that's for the professionals to deal with. It's not just the professionals. Obviously, they're the experts, and we rely on that. But we can support that as well on an everyday basis by simply asking if someone's okay and supporting them where they need. So football most certainly does have a responsibility, and I take that responsibility forward into our community projects that we deliver. So we've got a different projects that we run. So all mental health projects, sport and social, Talking Cherries, Men in Mind, Men Talk, and our mental health first aiders as well. And if I can just take 5 minutes just to explain what we do at AFC Bournemouth around that. One of the biggest things I've seen change at schools that I work in is the willingness to talk open. The subjects that the school children are now talking about are very diverse, very open, very willing to share. So we devised our mental health school workshops that we go into schools, and we deliver a number of different workshops. You can see there at the bottom, we delivered 61 workshops through last season, reaching 1,800 children. And the contents of that was very much around open discussions, talking about what makes you feel good, what makes you feel sad on occasions, how you can deal with that, who can you go and talk to importantly. Importantly, Danny mentioned triggers. We talk about recognizing those signs as well. So if you are starting to feel a little bit upset about something, down about something, are those signs? How we deal with emotions. I try and work really closely with our football players on that. You get very high, very low, and particularly when you're winning and losing, you can get very high, you think you're great, and come crashing down when you have a defeat. So about having a positive mindset to go through winning, losing, and drawing as well, but also linking it to everyday life as well. So we've got our school health, mental health workshops that we deliver across Dorset and Hampshire. And this one here is a twice weekly session that we do at the Vitality Stadium. We have some small pitches outside of the main stadium where we put on physical activity, football, five-a-side football for adults that are experiencing mental health difficulties. And we have referrals come in from many different partners that are sent to us. And these people are very different positions in their mental health journey. Some of them are finding it very difficult to get out of bed, but they might be that 10-year-old who love football, and they come to our Tuesday and Thursday sessions. We get them out the house, they come and play football. To others that are just recognizing that their mental health is wavering a little bit, and they come into us and they get some support. So we have a professional body that is there alongside the coaches, and that works every Tuesday and every Thursday at the Vitality session. And we have a referral process for that and a support process in place as well. Because like we said, we're not the professionals, but we can all take responsibility for what it is. So we're not professionals in the mental health, but we are sports coaches who care about the people that we work with and the people that we coach. Talking Cherries, this one has been set up through our fans. They meet every 2 weeks online, and they talk around mental health issues. They talk about their life. They talk about current what's going on in the world. Great platform to share, finding that growing. They go for walks and talks as well. They meet up at weekends. So this is very much different away from that 10-year-old boy dreaming of being a football player. This is around making people feel part of our football club and how we can use the power of our football club to make people feel better in their everyday lives as well. So online meetings, walks and talks, and they're there for each other as well through that referral and support system that we have. We're working with Dorset Mind. Dorset Mind do some fantastic work. We do some work, and we're not embarrassed to say that we say it's just for men on this particular one. We feel that men, and research shows that men are the ones that don't talk as much. Certainly, we do everything for men and women, but we try and highlight this one here, this project here for the men. Using our fan base, that we can ask people to come in for a course. They sign up for a course, and it involves different talks, different guest speakers. We do some physical activity as well. We host it at the football club, which is just a big draw for people to be able to come into the stadium. On that video, I never forget people's faces when they walk out onto the pitch for the first time through the tunnel. And even though I've been doing it for 21 years, you have to remember how special it is for people to walk into a football stadium for the first time. So we try and host a lot of our activities at the football stadium, and try and promote it for our male fan base as well as our female fan base. We have a cancer support group. Again, this is something that we've worked to develop over a period of time. Again, this one is just for men. We call this Men Talk. This is for anybody who's experiencing cancer, either themselves or through a family member or through a friend. We meet up at the stadium and we talk, a lot of the time, we just talk football. We talk football. We can talk about treatments that people are on, some of the anxieties that they might have coming up around that. Again, from the NHS world, we're not professionals in there, but we are talking and taking responsibility for what we feel that we can help in. So our fan base, we've all been probably affected by cancer at some times. So can we help our fan base? Can we bring them together, like-minded people to speak, and can we offer them some support and point them in the right direction as well? So we have that going on. We looked at ourselves internally as well, because it was really important that if we are going to try and understand and develop mental health, is that we get trained ourselves. So out of my 52 staff now, I think around 40 of them are trained in mental health. So when we're out there working with the young people and our adults, we're seeing some of those signs, some of those symptoms that we might look at and say, yes, that might be something that we might need to just keep an eye on. So again, it's for us about understanding the person rather than just understanding that people are playing football or joining a football club. Mental health champions, this is what we do at AFC Bournemouth. So there's no doubt that when we're in League Two, we're a very much different football club. When we're in the Premier League, the pressures that come in trying to work in a Premier League environment, we now have mental health champions in every single department of the football club. So allowing staff, which we feel is really, really important. We're obviously out in the community and working with so many different people, but it's really important that we look after our staff as well. So we have a mental health champion. Those champions are all trained up, and we can go and speak to them. They come around and they talk to us at various times as well. And again, they go up and beyond some of the support service they have for individuals as well. Employee support, again, this is something that's relatively new to football. And again, if you look at my career, I've had 12 years at Talk United, 21 years at AFC Bournemouth, and employee support around mental health has come in the last 2 years. So it's a real big step forward for being able to look after us as employees, to make sure that we feel good about what we do and where we're in good places. So when we're going out and working with the public and working with our players, we're in a good place to be able to do that. Additional support there that we have as well. So again, just from an internal point of view at AFC Bournemouth, we're regularly sending out different literature, different support that we can offer to our staff, and following that up with any staff that would like any further support as well. So this is where it's taken us. So hopefully that little journey that I took you on from the 10-year-old me who dreamed of being a football player, who got the no, and then was then stuck in this world of, well, what am I going to do because I only know football, to now to this football world, to what the current game looks like. Yes, we've got the Premier League players in a huddle there, but we've got thousands of people that are connected to the football club who feel that they are Premier League players. I feel like I'm a Premier League player, but I don't go out on the pitch. I do my job for the Premier League Football Club and for AFC Bournemouth. And I don't like using the word job because it's not really a job. It's just what we do. It's what we do. So players treated as individuals now. We're not all treated that same 10-year-old. We're not all told to win, lose. You're good if you win, you're bad if you lose. We're treated as individuals. We have a very open environment. We try and share things. We try and look at each other. We try and help and support each other and deal with those precious situations. We've got precious situations coming up on the pitch with the Premier League players, but we've got precious situations coming up with our community activities and the young people that we see on a regular basis. So our one-to-one support that we can offer is something that we will continue to develop and hopefully share some of your good stories and good work that's going on as well. So again, just to sum up a little bit about what we feel as a club. Yes, we are a Premier League football club, and that's what people see, but we're projects for local needs. So we adjust ourselves to whatever our local community would like us to do, what our need is. So we support, we provide opportunities, we try to provide the most positive environment we can. We try to recognise when it isn't a positive environment and try and influence that as well. But the most important thing is that whether you're a Premier League football player or whether you're that little person there dribbling the ball, you feel part of AFC Bournemouth. And that's what we try to do. So the opportunities that it has provided, it does provide now careers in football. So I look now and I work with so many people during the week and I look and say, well, if you're not going to be a professional football player, what can you do? There's so many careers in football now, which gives them the opportunity. Not all will play their part in the Premier League, but they'll all be part of the team. So you can coach, participate, teach and watch. It all provides those opportunities in many different ways. This is our phrase. This is a phrase that we have across, that we use across all our channels from the very top to the very bottom. Together, anything is possible. So if we work together, we believe that anything is possible. And for those who don't know the AFC Bournemouth story, 2009, look it up. We're going out the league. We're falling out of League Two. 2015, we're in the Premier League. Quite a journey that we're on. Together, anything is possible. Thank you very much for your time today. It's been an honour to be able to talk to you and take you through the work pathway and the changing world of work to what it used to be, to what it is now. But we've not stopped there. We're continuing to look at all the different avenues that we deliver, and hopefully we continue to help and influence the people that we work with in our community. Thank you very much.
Yes, Steve. Thank you, Steve. Power of sport, eh? I have to confess I played with a slightly different shaped ball than you did. I'm a former rugby player. One of the reasons I ended up in the Royal Navy was they made the most attractive offer to this promising young rugby player that joined the forces. I mean, it's great, isn't it? Teamwork, but we're all individuals. I mean, that is just so spot on. I mean, but we shouldn't lose sight of that. It's interesting to hear Steve as well talk about the support of friends and families. So true. Great to see the work that AFC Bournemouth are doing with communities and how they're giving a platform for people to talk and share. So important. So once again, Steve's been brilliant. He's given us a little bit of time. I can take a couple of questions from the floor if anyone's got anything to ask Steve. And Pip's coming with the mic. Just here to Ash.
Thanks. Steve, thank you very much, and really insightful. And unlike Kev, I'm a footballer, and the Army gave me a chance to live my dream for 11 years. So I'm really taken about the fact about the women's health. So I work in NHS Dorset. We've got a women's health strategy. We're creating women's health hubs. But obviously the women's game's getting bigger and more powerful, and you're in the centre of that. And we saw men's mind and stuff like that. Do you think you are connected well enough as the game grows with shaping and signposting young women and helping them with their health? And is there more to be done in the game, both in Dorset and across the country from your experience?
Yeah, it's a great question. The women's game is growing so fast, and we've got to make sure that we have everything in place to be able to support those women's players as they go through. There's a big lot of work, and I'm sure, again, anybody who follows the football at the moment, there's a huge amount of ACL injuries, knee injuries in the women's game, and why is it more prevalent in the women's game than the men's game? So we're very much open to a lot of research that's going on in the women's game, obviously around female health and levels of performance related to that. So as a coach, we've got to understand that actually, due to female health, that actually they might not be at their peak physical performance at certain situations. So for us to be able to recognize that, I think football is starting to do that. I think sport is starting to do that and opening itself up to it. And I think it's being fast-tracked by the development of the women's game in football. But I still think there's a lot of work. There's still a lot of work for me as a coach to understand my players even more. And be delighted to work with any partners to continue to develop that.
So we might give you a call because I think you're an important part of the group that's pulling all the ideas together. So thanks for all you do, Steve.
Thank you.
Steve, that was an inspirational talk. To see AFC Bournemouth grow as a professional, trusted community asset. I'm really interested in the business choices that Bournemouth have made in relationship with Vitality, which I'm assuming is the health insurance organisation that empowers people's well-being. How has that shaped the ethos for Bournemouth AFC in that relationship?
Yeah, again, it's a really interesting question across sport, and in particular football. We're having lots of discussions around partners that we work with and advertise with, for sure. Vitality, no doubt, being a health and well-being provider, has influenced our work. We deliver many more health programs related to adults' health in particular. So yes, I think who you partner with and who you work with definitely shapes who you are as an organisation that goes out there. I think the difficulty in sport, and this is across all sport, is that there's money involved with that and there's sponsorships. So gambling on shirts, for instance, is something that's being removed from football, but it's not being removed until 2026, I believe, so that's been sanctioned now. But again, it's those kind of moral decisions of who you work with as a partner that really shape you as well. So having Vitality on board with us is something that we're very proud of, and we do lots of good work together to be able to promote health and well-being.
Thanks very much. I really enjoyed your talk, Steve, and just to say I'm from a trustee at the Dorset Mental Health Forum, so hence my interest. Yeah. One of the things that gets to me, I think, if you look at sport at whatever level, on the professional game, is how much importance is attached to winning. And of course, I mean, I actually support Watford, so they're a team that get used to losing. And I just wonder how you deal with what must impact on people's mental health when the pressure to win is so great, what they do when they lose. And how do you support that environment when everything's about winning? Yeah,
it's another great question, and I think I work closely with a with an ex-manager of Bournemouth, Eddie Howe, who did a great job at Newcastle and beating Paris Saint-Germain last night in the Champions League. And he always talked about never get too high and never get too low. And what he meant by that was that we enjoy winning and we have to take defeat because that's what is sport. But I think it's important to look at the individual within that as well, and then look at it as a collective group. So sometimes when you're winning, it can breed good habits and it can breed bad habits as well. So we look at that as an individual and say, do we need to have a little bit of a chat with that individual around how they're training, how they're working, how they're performing, and even how they're acting as well. Because for a club like AFC Bournemouth, it's really important how we're perceived. So, you know, we're not one of the big top 6 teams in the Premier League, but we want to be recognised as a Premier League football club. So how our players act, how our coaches act, how our fans act is really important to us. So we look at it from an individual basis, but playing the game myself as well, it's a big crash. It's a big crash. When you win something and then you lose something, you come crashing down. And I think there we come back to having good people around you. And I think that's what football has developed. I was fortunate as a young person, I had good family around me. I probably didn't have good coaches. I had good football coaches, but not people that were going to help me in society. And I think that's where coaches are looking at it from a different point of view now. They're looking at the person. They're looking at how they can impact that person. Are they looking a bit different? Are they feeling a little bit low? Are they high? So we have a lot of more talking that goes on at a football club. And I think that's the biggest change that I've seen to support that feeling of high and that feeling of low when you win and lose a game. But trying to maintain that balance and be respectful, because if we're winning, it means somebody else is losing. And we try and remember that in our actions that we have when we're winning. And that's important to us as a football club as well. But talking is the biggest change that's happened. And that's how we can help the individuals and the team as well. Thanks.
One last question from the High Sheriff.
Yes, thank you, Steve. Thank you and the club for all the fantastic work you do for the community. That really is appreciated. But my question is, has money damaged the game?
Good question. Well, I often get a question around money at the Premier League and what it comes with. I think that what the Premier League have brought to football is absolutely fantastic. There's no doubt it's brought some wealth to individuals, to players. But what we don't see with the Premier League is what they do. They often get criticised that they don't look after the community, they don't look after the grassroots football, they don't look after development. They do a huge amount of work to do that. All those projects there that we have, many of them are funded by the Premier League. So they're doing that across the country to all the different clubs. We're in the middle of a big facility build to improve facilities for our young people and adults to play on, and that has been partly funded by the Premier League as well. I wouldn't say it's ruined it, because it's the game I love. It's changed it for sure. Without a doubt, it's changed it. It provides, you know, when I was growing up, it was probably a pop star. If you're going to be a millionaire, you probably had to be a singer. But now, obviously, people look at it and go, wow, I can live this lifestyle if I become a Premier League football player. And obviously not everybody makes that. So I wouldn't say it's damaged it. It's certainly changed it, but it's still the game we love deep down. When 3 o'clock kicks off on Saturday, it's 2 teams going for it, trying to be their best. So it's a great question, and it's one that we've got to manage as we go along with the developing world of football as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Let's hear it again for Steve.